What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet, because we'll tear his head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest, all the way from Chicago. She is a tremendous entrepreneur, author of the #1 best-selling book, Be, CEO of Simply Be Agency, and she's going to teach you why your personal brand is rad. On top of that, she is a Forbes expert. Please help us welcome the one and only Jessica Zweig. How's it going?
I love that intro, guys. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Well, glad to have you on, and it's definitely a privilege to be able to come here and talk to you and share this time.
You're so kind. I'm honored, and I'm glad to be able to dive deep with you guys. I think you guys are super awesome, and I'm just super excited to have this conversation.
Thank you. How did you, let's just kind of jump right in and give some people some background. How did you get into, the business of branding and helping people really find their way and find their message through their companies?
Yeah, so I would have to take you back a bit. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company in 2008. I was 26. I was green as grass. I went to school for theater. I didn't know jack about building a business. And it was probably a large part of my success, I guess, at that time was my naivete. And I ended up starting a blog that became a fully fleshed out digital platform for women in the city of Chicago. And it became the largest online platform for women for 7 years. Wow. Raised a bit of money, grew this massive audience, worked with all these major brands as our partners and clients and sponsors, and really cut my teeth back in like 2008, which is when, the dawn of social really began, and ran that business for 7 years and really got to sit at the table with Nike and Smartwater and Coca-Cola and Miller Coors when they were navigating the internet in that way for the first time too. So I kind of got my real life MBA, if you will. And I ran that for 7 years and then ended up leaving after long road and tough decision, but it was the right thing for me. And I launched what was called at the time Simply Be Agency, which was just a one-woman branding consultancy. I hadn't even thought about personal branding actually at that point. And when I left this magazine to launch my own second company, all I did was basically shout it out on Facebook, and I put an email out to my network, and that was about it. And I amassed a whole book of business overnight. I was actually like in a week was making more money than I had in 7 years running the other business. And I was like, wow, something is here. Like there's a merit to my name, not just the company that I ran, but my personal reputation, equity, platform in me. And I really, really was inspired by that, enough so that I decided to kind of take those 7 years working with those brands, learning all that I had learned, and applied it to this idea of branding a person. Because I was like, I don't want to just do this for myself. This is real. There's no one else really talking about this. This was now like 2014, 15. And I decided to go super deep on making that my service, personal branding versus corporate or product branding. And everything kind of blew up from there. And, now I work with hundreds of clients across the world, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, leaders, on building the brand of them. And I have a lot to say about it. Obviously, that's what we're going to talk about. But, I think that there's really no better asset you can build today than the brand of you, and to be really intentional with it. And I just think it keeps you adaptable in today's ever-changing business environment. And, I've seen a lot of success come from it, not just from me, but from hundreds and thousands of my clients.
I love that. And it kind of resonates with me right now as I'm kind of transitioning and going through a rebrand myself. So I'll be having my ears wide open during this entire conversation. Can we maybe discuss the difference between, because you separated them a little bit, right? The difference between maybe like a corporate brand and a personal brand. What are the differences between the two, and what makes them so different?
Well, I often say that people aren't trying to be brands. Brands are trying to be people. The point of a brand is to affect an emotional connection, period, to really create an affinity, right? Because people we make purchasing decisions based on how we feel, right? They're emotional. And so no one can convey emotion. Nothing can convey emotion like a person, because we have feelings, because we have hearts and minds and souls, not, a water bottle. And so it's really important to think about a product brand. You have to obviously know your positioning, your market, your message, your competitors, your look, your strategy. Like a corporate brand is equally as important as a personal brand. But a personal brand is there to really humanize the product and to connect and to create credibility and thought leadership and to represent that brand to its customers. It's people to people versus B2B or B2C. And no matter what industry we're in, we all are in the P2P industry. So I would really encourage people to think about, if they do have a company brand, to define their personal brand. And they shouldn't be totally separate. They should be interwoven and connected. They should represent each other, sort of be sister or brother brands, as I often say. And we work with a lot of CEOs who have companies, and the marketing of them is one component of typically an overarching strategy that includes paid ads, so organic social, email, conferences and trade. And then there's the CEO's strategy. And when you really compile it all together, it can be quite powerful.
It's truly amazing. And it's like now more than ever, you're seeing the importance of having a personal brand because of that, emotional tie-in and connection when it comes to somebody making a purchase or interested in working with you. And it's so true. And I think more than ever, we can all agree that social media has really exploited that, where personal brands have skyrocketed because, even before, to be a personal brand wasn't as easy, I would say, or wasn't as out there as it is today because of social media and how you can tap into so many other people's lives and get such a huge audience through your personal brand, which then will pour into your corporate brand or your company. And that cross bridge is so important. And I agree so much. And I'm a huge believer that, anybody in a business should be able to should focus on their personal brand as well. Now, I want to ask you, when it comes to building your personal brand, what are the key components that you look for? And what are the things that you would always recommend for somebody to start with right away?
Sure. So I just want to really maybe call out the elephant in the room around this topic, which is, if it's about you and your ego, you're doing it wrong. That's what a lot of people have, this misconception. I mean, I'm in this space, so it's a lot of, oh, that's not for me. That's for those people who want to be famous on the internet. Like, that's not who I work with personally. I mean, we help our clients definitely get seen on the internet, but that's not the objective. It's about coming from a place, at least, that's mission oriented. Yeah. Like, what do you really want to do in this life? Like, what's the difference you want to make? Because here's the thing, not only is that a feel good truth, but it's a strategy. It's how you actually connect. It's how you amass the right audience and the right client and the right, following. So really starting from a place of, what am I here to give? Not what am I here to get? Start there. And then the second thing I would just simply say is really understanding that branding is an exercise in clarity. So a lot of people get online and as personal brands, as people, just talking about whatever they feel like. And that is not what an expert makes, right? An authority or a thought leader sticks to the script, right? Like, if you think about the greatest thought leaders of our time, it's like Brene Brown, vulnerability. It's Richard Branson, entrepreneurship, adventure, like Gary Vaynerchuk, hustle. Like, exactly what they stand for, quickly, unapologetically, unwaveringly, I should say. So this is really a place I'd encourage those listening, like, what's that for you? What do you want that thing to be that people feel, think of, remember when they hear your name? And then the third thing I'll say, I mean, I can talk about this a lot. I wrote a whole book about it, but the third thing I would say is I have a saying in my book. I came up with it myself. I think it's rather cheeky, but it's thought leaders think. That's why they're called thought leaders, right? So you don't want to just post on social media all day. That doesn't a thought leader make. That makes a social media influencer. Sure, but I don't think that's what most people are aiming for. So if you want to really be seen as a thought leader, if you want to express your brand, be taken seriously, drive your business with your personal brand, you have to create content. You have to have a podcast. You have to have a blog series. You have to share video. You have to create webinars, white papers, write a book, like send out an email subscription every week. Like think beyond social to really go deeper with your IP, right? Your thought leadership.
So beyond social, and I like that you mentioned that, what are your go-to places? I know you mentioned book and stuff like that, but what are other resources that you would say that as a thought leader, as a personal brand, somebody who's really trying to create impact in a positive way, what are other places that you feel that those individuals should be hanging out with and pushing forward their message?
Yeah, I love this question. You know, what I see working a lot lately is because of the pandemic, right? We're all remote. Yes, we're all a little freaking zoomed out, but we still have no choice, right? People get it. I love premium experiences, like creating, master classes, doing online workshops, hosting, panels, creating free and at times paid for, but like free content at least is really going to help funnel people into you and to create real community. I think that that's a massive way to go real deep and show what you've got in a low weight, low cost kind of capacity. So, I have a podcast. We could talk about that. That takes time, money, and resources. We could talk about producing videos, same thing. Where you can really, I think, add value quickly and cheaply is by really offering up your audience something valuable outside of social to come to behind a firewall, essentially, that you create just for your audience as something really high value and exclusive. That's a really powerful tactic that I see working, and I'm doing it myself, and it's working really well.
In what way are you doing it? Because I know a lot of people are probably familiar with like Patreon, right? And that's more of like a paywall and not necessarily something that's free for everybody. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. What are some other ways other than maybe Patreon? I know, like there's one coming out now called like Circle. Circle's been around for a while. It's like an online community thing, kind of similar to like Facebook groups, but I feel like a little more advanced and technical. What exactly do you use to help bring people into your community and kind of enlighten them at least a little bit as to, what you're able to help them accomplish?
Yeah. So this isn't going to be revolutionary, but I'll tell you, it's working. I love webinars. They work so well for me. And I love the tool called Lead Pages.
It's
Are you
money.
guys familiar with Lead?
Yeah. Lead Pages is money.
Lead Pages is money, and Lead Pages is, it's $30 a month basically to get access to the platform. And it allows you to basically set up branded, landing pages that are on brand to you that you can connect to your own website if you want from like a URL perspective. They do all of this marketing psychology testing. So their pages, their templates are all optimized for like real powerful conversion and acquisition rates. And I actually don't like to call webinars. I think they're like, I'm going to sell you something if you join my webinar. So I call my webinars master classes, workshops, live events. I saw my friend Rachel Rogers do something. She called it a tea party. Like it's, you can create like high value content. Exactly. So think outside the box, get creative and call it something that's cool to your brand, but essentially it's a lead magnet, and it helps open up the funnel and brings people in and gives them something free. And I've been able to grow my mailing list and the mailing list of my clients like by thousands and thousands of people just using Lead Pages and webinars. You got to be strategic. You can't overdo it. You can't overkill it as far as like the frequency, but really giving people something clear and valuable to look forward to on a semi-regular basis can be really powerful. And then you upsell them into, your course or your services, if you want to. Otherwise, I've seen people just do it to promote their book or, create awareness, create community. It's really all up to you, but I love webinars and lead pages. They're powerful.
Now, you kind of beat me to the punch there, but I want to maybe double down on it. We're talking about frequency. How much is too much when we talk about webinars? How much is too little, right? Because, maybe you can get drowned out in the sea of, master classes, or you might just be the one, pushing it every other day. And then, you aren't maybe getting the necessary traction that you need. So is there like a sweet spot that you found with yourself and with your clients when it comes to these webinars or master classes? We'll call them that to, have better terminology.
Yeah. So I say a good sweet spot for something like this is like quarterly. It depends again on what you're pushing. Have you heard of the marketing terms like marathons versus sprints? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like a marathon, let's just stick with like lead capture and really creating community and growing your own niche. A great marathon would be to have a lead magnet that, drives people to your website kind of directly, passively, however that sits on your Instagram. Hey, go to my website, get my 10-step audit to see where your personal brand ranks. Like I have that lives on my website that, helps people drive to my mailing list. I think that cadence is important. I think you really can't oversaturate, and people are being sold to every day. Mm-hmm. And so when you come up with something that I also believe everything is energy, right? And if you're going to just do a webinar to do a webinar because, you need to grow your list, it's not, I don't think it'll be as impactful unless it versus you really thinking about, man, I'm really lit up about this new thing I learned that I can't wait to bring to my audience. And I'm going to pour all my energy in making this the greatest thing and then talking about it like it's the greatest thing. And people can feel that, and then they're brought in. And I personally, just naturally, I think, quarterly, I produce, I have an online course coming up, a 5-week online course that I'm going to be launching in just a few weeks. And I can't do that every month. I do that once or twice a year. So I really pour a lot of energy into those webinars leading up to those. Pretty much every time they're intentional. They have something I'm going to, open the doors with. So you really want to be selective. You don't want to overkill your own energy and least of all the attention of your audience.
First of all, I got to say, just this information alone is going to help so many people today on this podcast, because I know this is some stuff that people really need to hear.
Well, a lot of people struggle.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle. And then second of all, I got to say, it just keeps coming back. I love how you said we don't call this webinars. We could give it a unique name. I hear webinar, and I think it's like outdated. So I love that you do that. And
I always look for the coupon codes I'm going to get at the end of the web. I only go on webinars. I'm like, I think I might want to take his course that, I know he's going to sell me at the end of this. Like, I wonder what kind of discount I'm getting.
It's like the word infomercial.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Exactly. So going into the actual, when you talked about lead magnets, funnel, all that stuff, how important, because I feel like sometimes it's easy to say, yeah, guys, we got to build a funnel or lead magnet, but how important is it to understand the copy and the actual imagery and the message behind what's in your funnel or in your lead magnet to actually bring in that person to convert them? And what are some of the things that you look for that you would say are like kind of the rule of thumb when you are building out these lead magnets and funnels?
Oh, I love this question. I'm going to nerd out now. This is all branding. This is branding, my friends. This is storytelling. This is tone of voice. This is copy. This is color palette, photography. Like, that's the stuff that
I saw the
you
spark.
have. This is my jam. I mean, what we just kind of talked about a few minutes back is strategy, right? Like, and it's all strategic, but it's like the marketing kind of tactics, webinars, lead pages, funnels, timing. What you're asking now is about branding, is about storytelling, is about sharing the value and getting people's hearts invested. And to me, that's really like the magic of branding done well. And so it has to be on point. Like, you really have to make it look Like I always say, can I swear on your show?
Of course.
Whatever you
Of
want.
course.
Okay,
I say the word fuck like every 5 minutes, so you're
Me
good.
too. Okay.
I got
I'm
into
always
fitness,
very-
so I
Drop
got
it one more time so she feels comfortable. There we go.
I got into fitness so I could swear like a sailor. You're good, you know?
Rock and roll. Okay, fine. Good to know. I've been censoring myself too this whole time because I swear a lot as well. So basically all I was going to say, if you don't give a shit about your own brand, like the look, the feel, the sound, the tone, no one else is going to give a shit about it. You really have to invest in how it looks and how it's positioned. Like packaging and positioning is everything. So, you know, you want to really tell sales pages, lead pages, kind of any space where you're marketing something, you have to be intentional with the copy. You got to speak from your heart. You got to convey the value. Like, what are they going to get? Who's it for? What are they going to walk away with? Really paint the picture. Show the story of you. Why are you the person to do this? Why are you the expert, the person they should trust and invest in? Tell your story. I always like to take it back to like, you know, where we began. Like I'm launching a course, you know, in a few weeks, and I wrote the sales page recently, and I don't, you know, I have the 7-figure business now. I didn't always, right? I know a lot of people coming to this masterclass, webinar, course, whatever, are on the path to building a 7-figure business themselves. So my story is like, if you would have told me 5 years ago I'd have this, I wouldn't have believed you, but this is how I got there. And so really talk to people like shoulder to shoulder. I think a strong color palette, like know your colors, know your fonts, know your textures, make that consistent throughout the whole page. And then also have that be what you use for your social graphics when you're promoting it. So everything feels cohesive and connected. Whether someone's going to directly think to themselves, oh, that's very strategic and cohesive. No, it's a subconscious effect that, oh, this is legit. This is a thing. This is like a package, and I can trust this. Like that's the subconscious narrative that you actually give your customers when you take your brand seriously. And, you know, have a voice. Yeah. Don't be afraid to show your personality. Be sassy. Swear if you swear. Like, you know, make it funny if you're funny. Make it super passionate if you're passionate. That's really, really key. So I can't stress this enough. I told you I'm going to nerd out. Like this is really, I believe in branding. Like you can have the best PR, social tactics, products, but if you don't have a clear brand story behind all of it, it's not going to cut through.
I love that you talked about this because it is so important, right? It is so important. And I think even more important, something you mentioned in there is the energy behind the message that you're writing, that you're putting on there, the consistency of it, the personality that you're driving into it. Here's the tricky part and I want to kind of see what your take is on this, because I think there's something that we've all struggled with, especially when you're building something up or a 7-figure business. Your time becomes limited. Now you have a team. What do you do with your team? How does your team work with you? So that way, because I'm sure that they handle some of the copy for some of the stuff and they have to handle certain things. How much time do you put into the actual copy yourself, or how do you teach them that this is who you are and they can portray that similar personality on there as consistent as possible as if it was you speaking to them?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. It's hard. It's real hard, guys. I mean, I have a staff of 16 full-time people, and I would trust 2 of them with my voice. Now I like to write. Like as the face of the brand, it's really important to me that the copy is authentic, that it's all authentic, in fact. So the copy is something that I own. Now, we have a staff of amazing writers. We have a lot of clients. We ghostwrite, right? We spend a lot of time with our clients in the upfront of all engagements to really help be them and be their voice. And that's why I said I have about 2 people that know me the best, that I know could write for me and as me. But I'll say that I outsource everything else, like the drip campaigns, the design, the setting up of the lead page, the development of the webinar deck. Like I mean, it's my vision, but I don't actually crank it. Like, and that's as I've become, I guess, you know, more successful and have had this bigger company, I've grown. But I'll tell you, back in the day, I did it all. Like I have a dear friend. This is like a sidebar, but an important point. He is a restaurateur. He's a mogul. Like he owns like 100 restaurants around the country. What's it called? I don't want to say his name.
No, I'm saying the restaurant.
Oh, well, his restaurants are, he owns like all different kinds of restaurants. He's like the son of a restaurant empire.
Gotcha.
And what I love about him so much is that he could have just like, you know, milked his legacy and like gotten his trust funds and called it a day. But no, he works his ass off, and he now owns, like, he's carrying on the family legacy, and they own 100 restaurants all around, a couple in Miami, a bunch in Chicago, LA, Vegas, whatever. And he told me, we're friends. He told me that when he started his career, like when he was just coming up, he was old enough to work, and his dad was going to, you know, eventually hand him off this legacy, that he had to work every job in the restaurant before he could own his own. He had to bar back. He had to line cook. He had to be a busboy. He had to be a host. He had to be a server. Like, he had to know all aspects of the restaurant before he himself could lead it. And I think that's a really important kind of metaphor for any entrepreneur. You know, you kind of have to get your hands dirty and know what you're doing and what you're talking about before you can tell someone else what to do with it. And that's really kind of I have a very parallel track. I'm in a very different space than my friend, but I can't delegate anything out to my team. And yes, I've hired people who have more sophisticated understanding of like drip campaigns and softwares and systems. That's not my genius zone. So knowing your blind spots is also a really critical part of being an entrepreneur and outsourcing things you're not good at. But when it comes to the brand and the vision and your product, you know, in your space, you know, you really have to kind of pay your dues. I really believe in that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's something that Anthony and I talk about quite a bit. And you don't have to be a pro at everything that your business, you know, encompasses, right? But you do but you do have to know enough, you know, to know when you're onto something good, and also on the flip side to know, you know, maybe if I'm, you know, hiring you and maybe you're not really doing the best job, which you definitely would do the best job I could ever imagine. But hypothetically speaking, in a world that doesn't exist, you were doing a good job. I got to know whether or not I'm being fucked over, right? Like if I don't know that and I stuck with you, well, then my business is going to suffer for another year, 2 years, 5 years. Luckily, with everything that you got going on, you would crush it. And that would never happen. So, but if you didn't have this general understanding, at least baseline understanding of, you know, everything that kind of goes into the business, whether it be branding, whether it be ClickFunnels, whether it be marketing or advertise, whatever, if you don't have at least a general understanding of what's going on, then how are people going to be able to come to you and ask you questions about what's going on? Well, I don't really know. I've never dealt with the marketing before, right? It's like, well, what do you mean you've never dealt with the marketing before?
Also, too, like, what if you have your team and let's say somebody falls off your team and there's nobody else that can replace that position temporarily? You got to be able to step in at least for a few days to a week until you find a replacement to say, you know what, this is how we got to handle this currently, because you have at least a decent understanding because you did it yourself before, and now you don't have to worry about taking a huge hit either. Yeah, you might drop out a little bit. You know, you have to take up more time and things might shift, but you're not going to take the hit of a business overall.
Can bridge the gap.
Exactly.
Yes. And this goes back to like why personal brand versus the company brand, right? Like I often say and there's like these funny expressions my friend once said. He's like, you don't want to go to a vegan butcher. You don't want to go to a bald barber. Like, you know, like you want to buy from people like who walk the walk and drink their own Kool-Aid. And so you as the founder of your business, putting yourself out there as the expert, you got to be able to really authentically speak to that. And when you truly do, that's what people buy, right? That's what people want to get involved in. Like I walk the talk of building my own brand, and that's like the only marketing that we need at Simply Be. And it's not to say like we don't have to focus on a pipeline, but you know, you can really use yourself as the vehicle to tell your story in a way that no one else can. And when shit hits the fan and you have people who quit or get fired or aren't pulling their weight, that's what you sign up for when you're an entrepreneur. You can't be afraid to work hard. Like that is the deal. I don't glorify it, but like I never stop working, and that's my DNA, I guess.
And I don't think people understand entrepreneurship really means.
Oh man.
No,
I think-
You want to call my
It's just
girlfriend
a
and talk to
stamp.
her about that and just let her know? She's like, "Your eyes on your phone." Like, yes, I'm on my phone because I'm working. I'm answering DMs. I'm talking to people. I'm
Yes.
trying to make a sale here. She's like, "It's 9:30 at night. You made a sale?" Yes, I made a sale at 9:30 at night. Are you welcome? We can go on this trip now. Thank you. Like,
Yeah, and for real. No,
You know.
I hear you. That's I'm so glad you said that. It's what, if it were easy, everybody would do it. And it's not easy.
no, not at
not
all.
for
It's
everybody.
a lot of risk involved, right? And a lot of pain and a lot of hardship along the way. I want to kind of circle back to something that you briefly mentioned, right? And you were talking about, if you swear, you swear, do what makes you you. And I think that was something that was such a hard thing for me to overcome early on, and especially in creating content for my own brand was, and it wasn't until we started working with the amazing videographer and content creator that we work with now for the podcast and for our own brands that she's like, dude, like the best content. She's like, you swear like a sailor. I'm like, yeah. And like, I'm trying not to, like, I want to have a little more clean. She's like, no. That's not you. She's like, the best, most authentic content comes from you when the word fuck comes out every other word. Like you have to be you. It's like, it's not going to be the end of the world. You're going to attract the people that you're going to attract. And those people aren't going to give a shit whether or not you say fuck or shit or cuss, right? They're not looking for you to look like you just stepped out of a boardroom at JP Morgan, right? They're expecting you to be you, and you swears a lot. So be you and just be comfortable with that. And the second I was able just to kind of, for lack of a better expression, right, let my hair down and just be myself and swear and not think about, like, oh, did I just say shit? Oh my God, how many times have I said fuck in this 30-minute YouTube video? It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you're going to attract the people that want to work with you. And once I was able to do that, it's like, man, my content got so much better.
It's why my business is called the Simply Be Agency. Like, simply be you. That in and of itself is a strategy. That in and of itself is a differentiator. That is a revolution. And it's like people have a lot of fear. I just wrote a book. It's called Be, a no bullshit guide to increasing your self-worth and net worth by simply being yourself. And self-worth is the cause. Net worth is the effect. That's what I always say. And if you're in the business of building your brand, thank you. It's not what I see when I look at the world of people who are really like striving, and that's amazing. We should all strive. We all belong and deserve to be here and make a difference. It's not that people don't know how to craft the best lead page. It's because they're so fucking afraid to fail or to put themselves out there and to be judged, or that they're not worth it. The imposter syndrome, like the questions that swirl in our minds about, are we worth it, will cripple us, paralyze us, and we'll never succeed because we won't even try. And that is really, I think, the core of building a personal brand. It is an inside job first. It is an outside projection second. That is really the work. And I highly encourage people to do that inner work, focus on professional, personal development, like read the books, go to the talks, like hire the coaches, like do the things so that you can grow you into your highest, most confident version of yourself. And, then it's going to feel a lot less scary. It's always going to be a little scary, but then it'll feel a lot less, you won't question it as much, that do I swear? Do I not swear? Like all of that's going to be regardless of it's not going to be the point. The point is going to be, what's my mission here? Who am I here to be?
That's right.
And then the rest of that is just noise.
I love that you mentioned all that, and that's extremely powerful. And first of all, I'm going to go and get your book. So,
right
Yay,
after this.
please do. Everyone listening, go get my book.
Where
You
can-
find it on Amazon.
Wait,
Okay,
throw the-
perfect.
throw the
Yeah,
plug-
you-
okay, you plugged it in.
Yeah,
Okay.
plug it again just because we've all just been rambling while you said that. Where can people go find your book, B?
You can find my book Be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, everywhere books are sold. Support your local bookstores. It's called Be, B-E, period, by Jessica Zweig.
Awesome.
Love that. I'm definitely going to go
Thank
over to
you.
Target and get one. So I want to ask you, kind of what's your take on this? Because, I feel like, especially in the world we live in, and I've mentioned this a few times, we've talked about it, and there's so many great resources out there, and there's also other resources, maybe not as great. And even with the great ones that are out there, I feel like a lot of people, imposter syndrome, are using that, oh my God, there's so many resources, and it's scaring them to even do something with it because it's just too much information that they're getting in all at once that they're like, is this the right system? Is this the right system? Is this the right system? But this one told me this, and this girl told me that, and this is the way to do it. Where do I start? And I feel like the most important thing is like, okay, where do you align with? Who do you align with? Start with that one and just get ripping. And then close off everything else and focus on that one that you're doing, because if not, you're not going to do anything because there's so much resources out there and you're going to get blinded because there's so much good stuff being thrown your way. And you're like, oh, now I'm getting deviated. Oh, now I'm starting a brand new system after I was halfway through this one. And now I'm like starting all over. And then you do the same shit again.
But Anthony, my neighbor, told me that, this was the best thing for me to do. I thought that, I needed to drink apple cider vinegar to lose weight. Like,
How do you go about that?
I mean, I'll tell you, I love this question. I was just talking to my client yesterday, one particular client that I have, and she cried to me on the phone. She was like, she's growing her platform. She's not. We're actually killing. Like, as her team, we're killing it. We're getting her press on Goop and Mind Body Green, and Gwyneth Paltrow endorsed her book, and we've helped her with a lot of we're producing her podcast, helping her with her Instagram, and she was really struggling because she's like, she's not making the money she wants to make with her brand. And part of the reason that is because she herself hasn't really defined what she wants her business to even be. Like, we can promote her brand and she's going to get a lot of awareness and a lot of people are going to want a piece of her. But, she's feeling like resentful, like she's giving a lot of time away for free. And she's got all these ideas on how to, monetize herself, I should say. And I'm going to answer your question. She's like, and this person's telling me this, and I've heard this, and I've read that, and everyone over there is telling me this other thing. And I was like, when was the last time that you tuned into your heart? When was the last time that you just got really still and went inside? And I don't mean like meditate, but like to be with yourself, like to really consciously tune all that shit out. And she couldn't really answer the question. And I was like, well, because you are the CEO of you, not the peanut gallery, like you. So I highly encourage people to really take the time to journal, to talk it out with a trusted mentor, like really be selective in who you listen to when it comes to deciding big things about how you're going to create your business and your life. Like, that is sacred. And the person that really knows the best is you. And I am super guilty. I'm not on a pedestal. Like, I can sometimes spread myself too thin, like get super distracted, chase the shiny penny. Like, we all do it.
Oh my God, sounds like you. Sounds like you to a T for sure.
No judge-free zone. Like, it's a judge, we all have done it, but I just, and it's hard when we live in a very busy, 24/7 kind of world, but it's really important to at least kind of take some space for yourself and really slow down to speed up.
I mean, you're spot on though, right? We tend to think, people, we tend to overvalue people's opinion on what we're doing when really they don't even value their opinion on what we're doing. Right. And it isn't until, and like you mentioned, right, I too am at fault for this. I tend to think people care more about what I'm doing than even, I'm willing to admit I care about what I'm doing. But it's not until I set boundaries, right, as to what type of feedback, as you were mentioning, I'm willing to accept from some people, and what impact that feedback should even have on my life and my decision making, right? I mean, for me, like, not even talking about branding, but just talking about life. Like, I'm just moved to Puerto Rico. I had so many people tell me, like, oh my God, like, you can't move to, Puerto Rico. What are you doing? Like, you live in Miami. Like, this is where you need to be for fit, to help, one of the healthiest places you could be. And, look at and I'm like, listen, it's not the place where I need to be anymore. And I need to separate myself. And since I've been able to do that, so much clarity has opened up in my life in terms of, like, even the people I want to be around, what I want to do with my business, right? Because I was able to get away from all of the noise of other people telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing every damn day of my life. And
That's why Josh isn't that mean to me anymore.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little nicer to you. Yeah. I live that island life,
Josh.
right?
I love that.
But because of that, you know, because I was able to block out all that noise, right? I was able to, you know, and by setting the boundaries, do so, able to really open up that clarity and make decisions for myself and what I thought was going to be best for my business and for my life. You know, so you're spot on with exactly what you were saying there.
Yes, I love when I hear people talk about that, by the way, because, you know, we're thinking, my husband and I are thinking about getting a house in Nashville, like in the woods.
Nice.
You know,
Love
I live in Chicago and, you know, concrete jungle, and it's my home city, but I'm ready to have that kind of space. And I think 2020 and all that's happened in the last year and a half has really opened the doors for us to create our lives like on our terms. And the world has changed, and we can take that kind of space. And whether you move to Puerto Rico or Nashville or whatever, like find the space. Like, I just think the amount of distraction, push notifications, dings, emails, like the amount of blue screen connectedness that we have here in this current juncture of history of human beings, it's not normal.
No,
it's
not
so
at all.
not normal.
Not
and we really need to find time to kind of step away and disconnect in order to hear the truth of our hearts, our souls, our authentic, you know, identities. And it's really hard to do that when we're always on.
You're absolutely right about that, and I think it is so important for people to take a step back at times and have these times of themselves separated from all these devices, and just be able to spend it with yourself, your loved ones, and just in tune deeper with your inner self and nature, and just have that time to disconnect. I just want to say before we wrap things up, thank you so much for coming on here.
Oh man, this has been a blast.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you for having me. I was so, you know, it's funny. I get asked to do a lot of podcasts, and I say yes to pretty much everybody, but not everybody. And I loved your vibe. Like your energy on the IG was very sincere. I could feel it. And so thank you for having me. I'm really honored to speak to you and your audience.
So I guess somewhat of my branding is doing good then.
Yeah,
Nah, don't tell him that. Oh my God, you're gonna start to see these headphones stretch out a little bit more. He's gonna have to unbuckle that hat a little bit.
No, we really appreciate it, and we definitely would love to continue this relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you back on. Hopefully, you can come down here in Miami and have you.
Yeah, get out of that cold weather.
Yeah, guys, it's good to know guys in Miami. We have friends in warm places. I'll definitely stay in touch with you.
Exactly.
This was great. Please have me back, and you know, thank you for allowing me to, you know, plug my book. My book is really my 2021 baby, and I wrote it really to help demystify this stuff and to democratize it so that anyone anywhere can know how to really do this work, because it shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be hard. You know, we don't really learn it. We kind of like learned along the way. And I took everything I knew and poured it into this book. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, of course. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that. I always do a little quick lightning round of like 2-3 questions. But
I love lightning rounds.
Yeah, they're the best. But before we do, I want you to have the floor just to let people know where they can connect with you.
Great. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Jessica Zweig, just my first and last name. You can head to simplybeagency.com to learn about my business, jessicazweig.com to learn more about me. That's about it.
Love it. Lightning round. First question. Who are your top 3 people right now that you feel are crushing it in the personal brand game?
Whoa, I love this question. I will say, I think that Lovey Ajayi Jones. Do you know who she is?
I know
she's.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Lovey.
Yeah.
She just came out with a book, and her platform's on fire, and her book launch was ridiculously smart. I watched it all go down. I know this is going to be super cliche, but I love Gary Vee. He makes me happy.
Always legendary.
He's just he really, truly though, is so in fucking service. Like he really wants to help people. There's a lot of people out there. I mean, yeah, he's probably got a healthy size ego, but I get from him that he truly gives a shit about his community. And the third person, I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but she's my all-time favorite. And her name is Danielle Laporte. And she wrote the book, The Desire Map. And she's got a huge platform for women. She's all about sort of the intersection of spirituality, consciousness, and entrepreneurship, which is very much what I'm about. So she's like a role model to me.
We'll have to
Love
check
it.
that out.
Yeah, I haven't heard of her, but definitely going to go check her out and snag that book as well as yours.
Question number 2.
Thank you.
Where would you like to see personal branding going now in after this post-COVID pandemic? Where would you like to see it going? And is it where you see things going?
Wow, great question. These aren't rapid fire. These are great ones. I think that, you know, I'm going to wax like a little spiritual here for a second. I think that, you know, we went through like the biggest disruption of our ways of being, right, in the history of our humanity with the pandemic. And I think people are yearning more and more for community, more and more for purpose, more and more for fulfillment. And the world needs people to lead that. We need people to rise up right now and step forward and be spokespeople for the future. And whatever that looks like, which I think is a better planet for whatever it's worth than we are now. And so I think that, in my view, personal branding is the future. It's people like owning who they're meant to be and doing what they want to do and taking other people with them. I think there's never been a hunger for that. And that's, in my view, the pure power of building a personal brand. And do I think that it's going that way? I want to say yes. I think there's a lot of people out there that give this space a bad name. People are getting online more and more, just kind of being self-promotional dicks. And so I hope that more and more people kind of honestly like read my book, take a page that personal branding isn't an act of ego, it's an act of service when you do it right. So that's my intention for my space.
Love that. Last and final question. What is the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one sentence?
Don't focus on making money. Focus on making people happy, make people feel seen, valued, give them a reason to care, and the money will come.
Love it. Guys, don't focus on the money. Focus on the people and the intention behind it, and the money will come. Jessica, thank you so much. This was truly amazing, and it was a blessing to have you on here.
No, you guys are a blessing. Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. I had such a blast with you guys. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jessica. And everyone, make sure you go get Jessica's book, Be anywhere books are sold. And check out, what's your podcast called, by the way? I know we didn't talk about it, but what's your podcast called?
It's called the Simply Be podcast. Pretty easy to remember.
Awesome. Simply Be podcast. Make sure you guys go check that out anywhere podcasts are listened to. Until next time, guys.